Okay, peeps, welcome back. So today, GBAT has confirmed its bullish move to the upside. So with that being said, let's get it. Okay, so we're going to go over all the grayscale trusts today, including LTCN and BCHG. Before I do that, I'm going to go ahead and take you guys into the portfolio so you guys can see here that still have the same positions. Haven't really added any to HZEN yet. Kind of been a little bit more focused on other things at the moment, but you can see ETCG is still down. It's still at a discount. If I'm not mistaken, even the average cost basis that you see here is still like a 50% discount on the NAV or something like that. Don't quote me on that, but last time we went over the market caps on these grayscale trusts, it did say that at that current time, whatever that price was, I don't remember what that was, that the NAV for this particular trust specifically was at a 50% discount. So that would indicate that it's extremely cheap compared to some of these other ones that you guys see here. So GBAT, you guys can see we're up almost $1,000 on the day, so up almost 1,200 in unrealized gains here. About 21% move. So it's pretty good. It was actually higher than that at one point, and to be honest, I was kind of shocked. I was like, wow, wasn't expecting it to move up that quick. But then again, that's crypto. You never know. I mean, it could move up a little bit, or it could do some like crazy 5x in a single day. That's crypto. That's just the way it works. So HZEN still down a little bit, but again, there's peanuts in this fund. We essentially have nothing in this. So Mana is currently up 7%, or about $142 here. So between the two that are up, that's roughly about $1,300. And again, we have quite a bit just in these two here, as you guys can see. And then the total overall return as of right now is roughly about 11%. So let's go ahead and get into the trusts. All right. So I told you guys before, basically, that what I was looking for here is I was looking for a pretty much what I'm expecting is LTCN and BCHG to lag behind the breakouts of some of these other trusts. Okay. So what I said was that a lot of these trusts that have already had a MACD death cross are probably going to front run LTCN and BCHG. That's what I suspect is going to happen. Does it mean it has to happen? No, there's no guarantees. As you guys can see, the MACD death cross was back here in April 2024 on this one, for example, whereas the MACD death cross is literally happening a month later for LTCN. It actually has not even happened yet. You guys can see that the MACD EMAs there are just barely touching, and the histogram is also just barely turning red, and this is not confirmed yet because we don't have a weekly close. Again, we have 3 days left. So basically, I am expecting some of these other trusts to front run the next big move to the upside over BCHG and LTCN. But could I be wrong? Absolutely, I could be wrong. And if LTCN and BCHG move up in sync with the rest of the trust, well, hey, that's great for everyone that's invested in these, right? So let's go ahead and get into it. So LTCN here, this is kind of what I'm expecting. So maybe, again, I'll go over the two scenarios. So either it bounces off of support, breaks this trend line and goes to the upside, or it gets pushed down here in an attempt by the bears to this white trend line you guys can see here, and then it has an aggressive explosive move to the upside out of this trend line. Either one of those are possible. This one right here would be considered a capitulation fake out, or pretty much a bear trap, where the bears would be basically trying to short this thing to the floor, and they may initially succeed, but then the bulls come in and take this thing off to the moon. And then the bears have to get stopped out. They have to cover their positions, which is what short sellers have to do, which adds to further bullish momentum. So again, these are kind of the two big macro trend lines you guys can see here. So this first one is all the way down here at $9. I don't think it's going to go that low. Again, it has to go through two support levels and this trend line here to get there. Also the EMAs as well. And then there's this trend line here at $17, which I think is probably more likely. That's just my opinion, of course. So in terms of zones, we're still looking at the support zone here as the current level, or the current buy zone, I should say. So that's $23.50 to about $27. The swing high up here is $55 on the wick high up there, which again lines up with this control bar here. A control bar is basically It's pretty much what a control bar is, in my opinion, is a very solid, seemingly unbreakable level of resistance and or support. It's an area where either bears or bulls are going to look to guarantee that the price does not move in the opposite direction. So as you guys can see, we had this absolutely ridiculous move up to the upside, which is good. I mean, that's good for people that were invested all the way down here. But the bears were like, nah, not today. And then they sold straight out of this, roughly around this control bar. And of course, people were taking profits up here as well. So the combined selling pressure obviously led to the price of LTCN having a pretty substantial pullback. So again, this is going to be the first kind of area that we need to get past, is that control bar, that $50 zone. And then after that, you see these wicks right here. I kind of suspect that's probably going to be the next level. So roughly about $75 or so. And then above that, 100 to roughly about $135, all the way up in that major resistance zone. And once we get past that point, I mean, it's pretty much going to be, I would say, somewhere between $300 to probably about maybe $350 will be somewhere around that next major zone. I don't think there's going to be a lot of bears just sitting in between there. It's possible maybe it gets stopped temporarily at 200, but I would say probably 300 to 350 more likely, because you can see there's a lot of trading and price action going on in that area before the bears ultimately did end up shoving the price down to bear market lows. So the other thing I wanted to point out here is that the last time that we saw, or I should say the last two times we saw a breakout. So pretty much what we saw was, actually, I have to draw this line in for you guys to even see it. So this was the first one. I never actually pointed this out. So this is the first one here. So we saw a break of the trend line, and then we kind of rode this macro trend line here, and then boom, popped off of it. And then again, once we retraced, we rode the trend line, broke out of the downward sloping trend line there, which again is kind of pretty much, we're drawing that for a bit, and pretty much a bullish setup is what we're looking for on that. That's the reason why the trend line is going down, whereas the opposite would be going up, something like this, like I don't know, let's just say I was looking for something like this. So I wouldn't, like this red candle here would have given me a confirmation that it's time to short if I was going to short, which obviously I'm not going to short LTCN, but that's pretty much what that would look like. So once again, we're kind of looking for a break of this trend line. And I suppose if I were to draw like a fan pattern in here, which again would require a third trend line, maybe we would see something like this, where it goes up, comes down, retests this newer trend line that it could hold as support in the future, and then boom, pops to the upside out of that downtrend line there. We'll just have to see if that plays out in time. But as of right now, from the current price to the wick high up here, it'd be about a 96% move. So that's pretty huge. We can talk about future price targets once we get to that point. But as you guys can also see, the LTCN price does look like it's potentially about ready to have a breakout here. It's not confirmed yet. Again, we still have 3 days left in the trading week. And we also have the impending MACD death cross. So I just want to see, I have actually not looked at this, so I want to see if there's a confirmed breakout move on LTCN here on the daily, and there is. It's barely noticeable. However, the one thing that concerns me about this, well, two things again, is the potential MACD death cross, and also there was technically a green candle close above this trend line, as you guys can see. However, it is still below the EMAs, so potentially tries to come up, meet the EMAs, gets pushed back down to the trend line, and then maybe we take off from that point. I suspect there's probably going to be a little bit of pushback from the bears before this thing does actually seriously break out, but we'll just have to wait and see on that. So BCHG, it's not popping out of the trend line yet. I can go down to the daily time frame and look at this with you guys real quick. So as you can see, it's still very much below that trend line. And again, we want to see it get above the trend line either on the daily or the weekly. Again, the daily is kind of our front running indicator of what might potentially happen on the weekly. So we're not seeing a breakout on either of those yet. Okay, I don't know what's going on here. There we go. Okay, sorry about that. It was being a little slow. So again, potential MACD death cross impending here. You can see the histograms moving down. Once this flips below zero, it will turn red. Whether it starts out as a dark shade of red or a light shade of red remains to be seen. But as of right now, the current support is between 10.15 to 12.75. Resistance is 18 to $20, and the wick high up here is roughly about 23.50. So, I mean, even from the current prices, still a pretty substantial move. If you were just to buy in now and then hold to the swing high, it would be a 100% move. Now, I do understand that these trusts are not guaranteed to go up. Okay, if Bitcoin does have a massive 30-40% pullback, there is a pretty good chance, not a guarantee, but a pretty good chance these things may also pull back substantially. Or a black swan event or something like that. I want to make you guys aware of that. There's no guarantees in the crypto markets, okay? But assuming this bullish breakout happens, that's roughly about the percentage gain that you'd be looking at. And again, we want to see a break of the trend line, which we have not seen yet. So HZEN, no break of the trend line, kind of getting wedged in between support and the trend line. We'll have to wait and see what happens with this. Support is 380 to about 420. Resistance $7 to $8. And the swing high up there is about 10.50 per share on HZEN. So just to go from the current price to the swing high is going to be a 130% move. And again, this one has had a MACD death cross, so it did happen before BCHG and LTCN, and you guys can kind of see that even after the MACD death cross, it did kind of pull back a little bit more. It's impossible to predict when this thing's going to start moving up just based on the MACD death cross. Again, that's why we're looking for a break of this trend line here. So ETCG, again, MACD death cross. So pretty much, I would say at this point, pretty much the ideal buying point would be somewhere between this channel. So $11 to $13, somewhere in there. And then the swing high on the resistance, which is way up here, is going to be at $20. You guys can kind of see how this is held over time. We have to get past this area first, but this is actually kind of the real resistance here. And I mean, besides, we can't really call it a move to go from the current price to the top of this zone at $16. I mean, that's more like a stock swing trade. That's not something I would necessarily be considered to be a crypto trade, but you know, is what it is. So it'd be about 64% move. So ETH again, two potential bullish patterns here. We have a downward channel or descending channel, which typically more often than not is a bullish price pattern, which means it's going to break out to the upside. And then we also have a cup and handle potential pattern here, which again, the target would be way up here at $54. So MACD death cross has played out for a while, which leads me to believe that probably going to see a move up sooner on this one, perhaps than LTCN and BCHG, but that remains to be seen once again. So again, the ideal buying point is going to be somewhere between 17 to roughly about the bottom of this channel. So 17 currently to just under $20. Now, if I take the measured move from, let's just say the bottom of the channel, we'll be relatively conservative here to that swing high. You'd be looking at an 81% move. And from, well, actually, I got to remeasure this. Hold on a second. So from the bottom of this channel to the cup and handle target, which again, we don't have a confirmation one way or another as to whether that's going to play out, would be 180%. And ETH, as you guys can see, based on the price target potential here, does have more of a potential than ETCG. But I'm really only measuring this to the recent local swing high, which again is this area and this area right here. ETCG's high is way, way higher than that. So it's all the way up here. But again, we got to get past this first resistance to actually get to that area. So that's the reason why it seems like ETH has more upside than ETCG does. Whether it actually does or not, I couldn't tell you guys at this point. Price discovery is impossible to predict. So FILG, this is one that we wanted to pick up down here at this trend line, or not trend line, but support, but it just didn't quite get there. So came close, but no cigar. So it was roughly about $10 off. I mean, if I could measure this move, it was like, I was ready to load the boat on this thing. It was almost there, and 18% more would have absolutely piled in heavy, and yeah, just didn't get it. So is what it is. Just move on to the next opportunity. That's what we're going to do. So anyways, on the weekly, we do have a confirmed breakout of this trend line here. So if you guys got in at filg below this trend line, congrats to you. Again, this is a daily confirmation close above the trend line, but we are still below the EMAs. Do keep that in mind. But we also are about to have a golden cross on the MACD on the daily, and we do have a golden cross on the RSI on the daily time frame. And the RSI was coming from oversold territory, so that's also an added bonus, because generally when it hits oversold, that's a very strong indicator that the trend is about to reverse. So 3 more days to get to the close of the weekly. And again, I will point out one more time to you guys, unless this thing actually closes above this trend line here, this support is still the buy zone. So that's going to be $36 to about $40. If it closes above this trend line, though, then the trend line becomes kind of the buy zone. So that'd be roughly about closer to about $60 or so. So the high up here is about $400. Now I could take the measure move from both the support zone and the trend line. So support zone to the swing high is going to be a 960% gain. That's absolutely insane. And then from the trend line to the swing high is still pretty good. I mean, it's 483%. That's going to be pretty hard to beat in such a short amount of time in stocks. So GBAT, this one is definitely the most bullish by far. This is the first mover. No, there's no question about it. You guys can see this powerful green candle here. Got the confirmed breakout last week, and we're having follow-up on the weekly time frame here. So I want to actually go down to the daily time frame to show you guys just how very confirmed this move is. So we have the MACD under the zero. It generally, when it's under the zero and it's doing a golden cross, that means that the move to the upside is going to be much more powerful than if it had a golden cross at the zero. It's not a guarantee, but that's generally what it means, because the more oversold the move is, the more it's going to swing in the opposite direction, and also the same is true for being overbought. So we have 2 candle closes above the trend line. We have a MACD golden cross. We have an RSI golden cross after hitting oversold territory. We also have, we basically have the breakout candle here on the daily, which broke above the trend line. You could say that this one did, but this was, it is a confirmation, but it's not as obvious as this one right here. This one is the real deal because, again, it did close not just above the trend line, but also above the EMAs. And we have a follow-up candle now, which is considered to be bullish confirmation. So we generally want to see a breakout candle plus a follow-up candle that would indicate that the move is actually in play, which it is here. So one other thing I want to point out to you guys is each time that this thing has broken out from this downtrending trend line, the first week to the last week that we saw on green was 5 weeks of green. Okay, so we had 1, 2, the breakout on the second one, 3, 4, 5. And then we had another breakout of this trend line, 1, 2. The second one was a breakout, 3, 4, 5. And on this one, 1, 2, the second candle was a breakout, and then presumably 3 more weeks of green. I don't know. It seems like it's literally playing out textbook perfect at this point. So, and also we have a series of higher highs and higher lows. So each time this thing breaks out, it goes to new highs. So theoretically, this thing is going to go to new highs, but in terms of how high it could go exactly, I am not sure. Basically on the fibs, this thing from this breakout to the swing low to the swing high was roughly about somewhere in between the 2 and the 3 fib. If I were to go down here and measure this one, let's say from the swing low to the swing high, it kind of varies, as you guys can see. So this one actually only hit the 2.618. So it would indicate that the following move was actually more aggressive than the previous one. So again, guys, these are just going to be estimates. This is not a guarantee of anything. Okay, I cannot tell you guys for certain that this is going to go to any of these levels because I just don't know. Price discovery is impossible to predict. But you guys can see that the measurement from the swing high to the swing low, this thing, if it were, we'll just say it goes anywhere between the 2.6 and the 4.6. We'd be looking at roughly about $70 all the way up to $112. Even if it just went to the 1.6, that's still a $47 GBAT, which again, I mean, from $16, that's still going to be roughly about a 3x on your money. So whether you guys think it's worth the risk or not, that's up to you, but that's kind of what it looks like right now. So GLIV looking like it wants to pop its head out of there, but we haven't had that move yet. So bears are still in control as of right now. Again, the support is going to be between $12 and $14.70. The resistance is going to be $80. So pretty big move there. Just to go from support to resistance is a 530% move. Now, if you wanted to play this trendline move, assuming it's going to break out, me personally, I'd be waiting for confirmation, but you guys can do what you want. So from the current price to the swing high up here is 223%. That's still a pretty good move. But again, do keep in mind that the drop could also be pretty heinous if it does drop. Just kind of understand what you're getting yourself into here. The drop could potentially be 53%. It could be more, it could be less. It could not even drop. We'll just have to wait and see. So G-Link, pretty much same setup as the other ones, kind of looking for a coil and a push one way or another out of this coil, either bullish or bearish. But again, we do have support below here. So support is $63 to $83. And the swing high is $220. There's a possibility that even if there's a support zone down here, that some of these prices could get pushed below it, which I would say is actually really super bearish, and that's why I think it's not going to happen. But I mean, the fact that there's a support sitting below here and this resistance has been turned into support leads me to believe that likely the breakout is going to be to the upside, not to the downside. So again, just from the current price to get back to the support zone is going to be about a 38% drop. If I was going to buy this now, I'd just DCA down slowly but more aggressively as it comes down to the zone. But of course, that's just my opinion. And from the current price to the upside here, you'd be looking at about 112% gain. So GSOL, this thing is very difficult to try to figure out what it's going to do. I really honestly could not tell you guys at this point what it's going to do. I mean, I suppose that's a more perfect looking triangle, but this thing is more or less just chopping sideways. It's not picking a direction. So if I was looking to buy this, I would be strictly hands off at this point. You guys can do what you want with it. There's a MACD death cross, but the lack of confirmation has me hesitating and not wanting to touch it. So 172 to 200 is going to be the support there, and the swing high is 580. Give you an idea of what the drop would be like. It would be huge. It'd be about a 53% drop if it does sell off. However, if you were patient and waited for the support zone here, and then you rode it back to the swing high, assuming it goes back to the swing high, you'd be looking at 220% gain on that move. So GXLM, again, I would say the bottom of this trend line here, or this wedge pattern, it would be not really a wedge so much. I think it's more of kind of like a channel per se. I mean, this could be measured a million different ways, but I would say this is probably more likely a channel, which again, the fact that it popped out of here so aggressively and they came back down is kind of weird, but I suppose I could even just draw like a bigger channel, like maybe this is actually the channel. So between this trend line and this one up here, but again, that's kind of a broad range, and that's not where the price is most heavily traded. So bottom of the trend line as of right now is going to be the most recent support. Again, that's roughly about $30. If it gets below that, I would say the bottom of these candles here, about $20 is going to be the next level support. So the top of the move, the swing high up here is $70. From the current price to the swing high would be about a 94% move from the bottom of the channel there to the swing high would be 128%. And then from the lows of those candles down there at $20 to the swing high would be about a 235% move. And just understand, if this thing does break below this bottom line here, and it doesn't necessarily mean that it has to stop at 20, it could go all the way down to the support, which again is between $4 to $11.65, unless there's a major sell-off in crypto, or the Fed cuts rates, or there's some kind of crazy black swan event. I just don't see this happening. So Again, I would say likely somewhere between 20 to 30, but only time will tell. So mana, this thing does look like it's trying to slowly push out of here. We may get the confirmation this week. We'll just have to wait and see on that. So let's pop down to the daily time frame, take a look at this. I'm a little hesitant to say that that's a breakout move, but it does kind of look like it wants to get out of there and start moving to the upsides. So this one's a little bit less sure of the move than GBAT is, but I'll be keeping a close eye on this one. So you can see the MACD did have a golden cross that's moving up. RSI moved off of oversold and had a golden cross, and it's moving up. Again, we just don't have the confirmation. I suppose if I move this line back a little bit, the confirmation did actually happen, but I'm not measuring this based on the daily. This is measured based on the weekly. So generally when I align a move, I try to do it with exactly to the tops or bottoms of the wicks. That's the best way to go about it. So again, support's going to be $17.30 to $20. The resistance is going to be $70. If it breaks the trend line, closes above, I would say that's the trend line at that point would start becoming support, that and or the EMAs if the price gets above the EMAs. And ideally, we want to see a curling up and also a golden cross on the two indicators here. So Zcash, this one's kind of stagnating around. It's not doing much. Not really sure where all of the support and resistance zones went that I had on this thing. That's kind of a bit weird. So give me a sec, fellas, and I'll put this back in so we can get a clearer picture of what we're looking at here. So I would say this likely is going to be our support area right here. And this little area right here is likely going to be the first resistance. And then above that, I would say likely probably going to be right about here. So I don't know what the heck happened here. But anyways, we have a MACD death cross, a RSI death cross, although the RSI is going up. So that's kind of a bit strange. So you can see that the price is going down, but the RSI still looks like it's trying to move up here. It's not actually bullish divergence, but it kind of does look like it a little bit from a bird's eye view. So again, the current support is going to be 370 to about 550. Resistance is going to be 770 to about 970. And we are kind of looking for a bullish break above this trend line, which we have not seen yet. From the current price to the swing high up here, we'd be looking at about a 93% move. And from the bottom of the support, assuming that it doesn't break out before then, to the top would be roughly about 174% move. So anyways, hope you all enjoyed this content. Please like, comment, and subscribe, and we'll see y'all later. Peace.